All right, guys. Hey, welcome to our Monday sales call. I'm excited to be able to have Tom Foshio on the call with us. Tom, just to let you know, bro, like I was looking at your name and I was like, all right, I'm going to text him. I'm just going to ask him. And then when you sent me that back, I was like, there's no way that can possibly be true. And so I started Googling videos of you on YouTube to try to see
Yeah,
how other people say it. And I found the Wetmore video that just released this morning. And I was like, all
yeah,
right, he kind of said it that way too. So, Tom, I appreciate you, man, for hopping on and spending some time with us. Let me give you your proper introductions. Guys, like, let me be very clear. Like, there's only one rookie producer of the year every year, right? We have 25, 30,000 agents, whatever it is. We have, I don't know, 5, 6,000 agents that get contracted with us yearly at least, probably. And only one person's able to win the Rookie of the Year title at Family First Life. It's the brand new agent that writes the most business that year. Well, Tom was the 2024 Rookie of the Year producer here at Family First Life. So, Tom, I appreciate you, man. For those that don't know you, because I don't really know your story as well, can you kind of quickly share with us like who you are, how you got started, what you did in the past, and all that good stuff, man?
yeah, of course. And it's an honor to be on as well because I actually my first few days I was starting off in the Sky Point boot camp, just the teachable crushing those videos. So it's a full circle moment here. So thanks for having me. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, a little bit on my story. So I guess my whole journey as far as getting into the insurance industry started like maybe around uh around a year, 2 years ago. So I was initially working at AT&T for 4 years, and there was this one day where I had like I guess like a turning point moment where I clocked in for work and I got this email, and it was like, "Hey, claim your free AT&T swag for your 4 year anniversary." And I was like, "Man, I've been here for 4 years. This isn't what I had envisioned for my life." So, I immediately started looking at different opportunities and. I did the Google search that I feel like everybody does, like how to make six figures, no college degree, and I was on Indeed, and all I saw was sales jobs. So as far as sales jobs, I'm an introvert, so I was like, I don't really think this is for me. But I was like, nothing changes if nothing changes, so I had to jump right in. I saw three types of sales jobs. It was solar, pest control, and insurance.
Okay.
Now, because I was in Alaska, solar didn't really make much sense because it's like dark, eight,
Yeah.
9 months of the year. Pest control, I don't want anything to do with bugs, so I was like, that's ruled out. So I jumped into insurance, which at the time was property and casualty insurance. So I was actually working for Allstate for a little bit. So I did that for around 4 or 5 months. And I realized pretty quickly like nobody was making any money there because it's a lot lower ticket. Like you get like 10 to 20% of the sale. And like with home and auto, it's not, super big premiums. But I then thought to myself, I was like, man, so I'm getting pretty used to like rejection and cold calling because that's what we did for the most part there. I wish I could sell something that was higher ticket that I'd get paid more on. So shortly after that, I got hit by a Cody Askins video on YouTube. It was like him interviewing this guy making six figures with life insurance. So, the next logical step for me, I Googled how to become a life insurance agent. I saw Eric Schmidt's ad, and I typically don't click like sponsored posts. Like I typically like scroll down and then click the first organic search result. But for whatever reason, I just clicked it, filled out my info, and he called me the following Sunday. So that's how I jumped in the industry.
I love it, dude. So how long have you been actually, how old are you, by the way?
I'm 25, just turned 25.
25. Cool. I definitely remember when I was 25, I was definitely not doing this. You know what I mean? So you said you're from Alaska. Are you still in Alaska or are you
No, I live in Texas now.
okay? So why did you relocate?
Um, Honestly, because I was born and raised in Alaska, I just wanted like a change of pace, and also
Okay.
it's cold out there. Like, I mean, of course it's cold out there, but like, I just feel like Dallas. I'm in Dallas specifically. It's got a lot more to offer than Alaska for sure.
I love it. I love it. So you get work, you work with Schmidt, but you do the boot camp. How do you get started? Like, what did you do? What kind of leads did you start on? Like, how did that training go? Like, how did that all go?
Yeah, yeah. So initially, I was going through your boot camp, and I was looking at all the different products and everything. Eric was like, "Hey, just keep it, simple. Focus on final expense." So I primarily watched those videos in your boot camp and everything, and really like try to build a script off of that along with what Eric was giving me. So initially, I would go to ageleadstore.com
Hmm.
and purchase like a
Yeah, I
batch of
remember that
like a
dude. Wow.
thousand. Yeah, that's where I got my first few sales from. I just purchased like a batch of 1,000 leads and start dialing them like first thing in the morning. They were all like South Carolina, because that's the only license I had at the time. And that's actually how I closed my first couple policies. I was fortunate enough to be put in a Zoom with other people that are crushing it as well. So after closing my first few deals with the Age Lead Store leads, I saw what they were doing. They were all working vet leads, having them exclusively generated, and I was getting my butt kicked on these phones. Like I was making like $400 a day just to maybe get one sale. And it's like, I feel like these guys are on presentations like every other call. So I'm like, okay, I need to move to something higher quality. So from that point in time, I switched to the exclusively generated leads via Facebook. And um, initially I was on $100 in spend a day. Um, and then there was this one day in the chat, I asked one of my guys, Freddie, I was like, hey, how much? And I think he did an interview on here as
Very
well.
Shaw, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, how much do you spend every day in leads? And he was like, he like put some numbers in his calculator real quick. He's like 2,100 a week, 300 a day. I'm like, what? 300 a day? Holy cow. So it took me a little bit of thinking, and um, it wasn't that much of an emotional decision for me just because the numbers made sense. So I was like, okay, if I'm spending $300 a day on leads, all I have to do is make one sale and I'll be good. And I also viewed it as sort of like tuition as well, because I'm like, okay, let's say I go, this whole month without making any sales, that's like, 10,000. But as soon as like if I figure it out, then I could easily get my feet under me and, make that money back and then some. So, and or just break even too. So, um, yeah, that's pretty much how I got started. So just initially with those Age Lead Store leads, combining like the boot camp stuff with what I got from Eric and other guys in the Zoom, and then I switched to like some higher quality leads.
I love it. So you said a few things on there that I wanted to highlight, right? That I feel like a lot of people always ask us, like, why do we have to do it this way? And so part one, you were like, number one, I hopped in a Zoom room with other top producers. Um, in my opinion, if you're a brand new agent or if you're a producer, period, and you're not writing 40, 50 grand a month and you're not on Zoom, then my question is like, why? You know what I mean? And it's smart because you're like, I was blessed to be able to do that. And it's actually funny how you say that because that's correct. A lot of people want to hop on Zoom and they don't have a team to hop on Zoom with. So the fact that you have a Zoom call, we have a Zoom call that allows people to do that, like that's a big win, right? Part two was um, you're dialing age leads to start because you need reps, right? So you got 1,000 leads, they're like dirt cheap. You made a few sales, whatever it was, and then boom, you hire someone to run ads for you, and then you're spending $100 a day and you're generating your leads. And then what happens is you talk to a top producer and you quickly realize you're like, dang it, I'm not spending as much as they are, right? So they go, I spend 300 a day. You're like, that makes sense. You spend 300 a day, production matches. Like this business is as copycat as it gets. You know what I mean? Like I have so many people that go, well, what do they say? And what kind of questions do they ask? I'm like, dude, it like none of that actually matters. It doesn't. This is a copycat business. I'm going to copy your lead bill. I'm going to copy your lead time. I'm going to run the appointments. If I copy your work ethic, I'll have the result. I'll copy the result as well. Like, here's what's funny. There's like 40 people on the call, right? If we recorded everybody's in-home present or in-home telesales presentation right now, none of it will sell the same. But everybody wants each other's script, which I think is like hilarious. Because Tom, you're
Yeah.
from Alaska. I'm an Asian kid from LA. We don't talk the same. Why are we going to pretend that we do? But what we can have is guidelines, right? If we have a guideline of what we need to hit inside the sales presentation, we're good. You know what I mean? So you run Facebook leads. Is that your only lead source, or is that like majority of your lead source? Like, how does that look like for you?
Yeah, so that's the only lead source currently.
Okay. So are you running just Vet FE? Are you running a blend of term life leads, IUL leads, or what are you currently running?
Yeah, so last year towards the end of the year, I was playing with a little bit of mortgage protection, but I've gone back to just like vet leads as of right now. So
Yeah, I love it. What are you getting them for, give or take?
uh I did the math. I think it broke down to like 13, 14 a
Yeah, I
lead.
was gonna say 15. Yeah,
Yeah.
give or take. Yep, that's awesome. So you obviously get like 20 of those a day, right?
Hmm.
Um, I'm assuming you use a CRM, you call through a bunch of things. Let's talk about that, right, Tom? So I'm talking to some new agents, and they're like, this CRM and this dialer is better than this dialer and this CRM. And I'm like, do they all suck and they all work? I'm like, matter of fact, you need all of them. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because in the game of telesales, it's I need you to pick up the phone. And so, like, whether you use Ringy, whether you use a version of Go High Level, whether you use Ring Central or Sideline or freaking Phone Burner or Kixie, I don't care. I need you to be able to get someone to pick up the damn phone so you can talk to them, right? How do you do that in your group? Like, what are you guys doing in that sense?
Yeah, so our whole group pretty much, maybe with the exception of one or two people, we all just dial just straight from our phone, just from a secondary line on the phone.
Yeah,
Um, I did initially, I was using Ringy, um, but I felt like just with all the different numbers and possibly having to swap them out, it would get a little bit convoluted because I'll be following up with a client and then it's like, did I call them with this number or with
right,
this number? So just having one, number where it's all sort of, centralized, put together is a lot more, so a lot more simplistic. But I did play with other dollars in the past too, like Kixie and all that other stuff. Honestly, it does all work. So it's just a matter of like, which one you feel most comfortable with. But this was just the most simplistic for me and took out like a lot of other, headache or
right.
confusion.
So,
So
like, when you get your leads, right? Let's say a new lead comes in, boom, it's Stephen Yee, Vet Life Insurance. What's your call pattern for that client? Are you calling them two times, three times in a row? Are you calling them three times a day? Are you calling them how, like, what is your pattern on calling clients?
yeah, yeah. So initially, like back when I was just straight call to closing, I'll be calling them three times and then moving on to the next lead. As I've gotten more lead flow and then appointment setters, I have more appointments now that I could just jump into, and it's like,
Yep.
I don't have to call as heavy. So sometimes I'll finish the workday and then it'll be like a lot of leads that are white. And I'm like, man, I haven't even touched these yet. So I've now reduced it to two dials per lead. So
Okay.
I'll double dial, move on to the next double dial. And then if I've dialed all the leads, and I don't have any more appointments at the time, I'll go back to the leads, the newest leads that came in and double dial them again, just all the way up. And then go to tomorrow and then the day after and so on. So
I love that you said, like, we're not gonna, like, by the way, we tell the truth on this call. And for me, I go, I don't care. Like, I just don't care. Like, if people are like, you're not supposed to talk about self-gen. I was like, I don't give a shit because we all do. People are like, you can't talk about dollars. I'm like, we use them. You know what I mean? So you said something about appointment setters. How many appointment setters do you have, and what does that look like for you?
yeah, so as of right now, I have one appointment setter.
Okay.
So they're working 8 hours a day. They'll typically get me about 10 appointments a day. And sort of like my,
Damn.
my logic behind that, and this is sort of my logic the whole last year as well, is like, okay, if they get me 10 appointments a day, we typically see like at least like a 50% no-show rate. So I always tell people like if your appointments are no-showing, like that's a normal thing. Even if you have all the CRM automations, like, hey, your appointment's in 24 hours, 1 hour, you're still gonna get no-shows.
Right.
So at least like 50% no-shows, and then five people you might get in contact with. Two of them are going to be like, whatever, you might not even get to the presentation. And then ideally, out of those remaining three, you get the presentations in. And I don't have like a crazy close rate or anything. Like it's probably 25-30% from being completely honest. So I hope to close one of those people, and then maybe I'll get a one call close from just dialing up the spreadsheet. I dial like straight off the spreadsheet. So no, I don't dial from the CRM or anything like that. Just because I'm using my phone, I just look at the number and just dial it and put it in, dial it, and so forth.
Dude, it's simple, right? Like, it's so simple. And see, like, this is what I've shared with some people. And Tom, tell me if I'm crazy for thinking this. Like, if you one call close strictly, which a lot of people do in this business, and like mad props to those people. But like, you wake up every morning with nothing on your calendar. And so, like, there's this pressure for you to perform that you got to create something out of nothing in that next 8 hour, 10 hour dial session, right? Which is
Yeah.
awesome. But like, dude, that shit's wearing, right?
Yep.
And so I'm like, it's different. Like you're like, I have 10 appointments. Cool. Well, if you wake up with going, I got a 10 appointments today. And what happens is if my 8 o'clock no shows, dude, I one call close. But if my 8 o'clock is there, Bro, I'm in Prezzo mode. I get paid the best when I'm closing insurance, not dialing the phone, right? Like, and for me, that's where the combination of having a dialer while you're outbounding too is powerful. You know what I mean? Because what you're doing is you're buying your time back. Now, by the way, let me be very clear. You probably can't afford a dialer until you're probably writing 20 grand a month in premium. If not, you're just trying to delegate work that you're not trying to do. Right. So that's where we kind of like really introduce dialers to folks is right around at that premium. But like talk about that. Like when did you pick up a dialer? How do you train them and all that?
Yeah, so I picked up a dialer my fifth month in. I actually talked to one of the guys in the Zoom there, Austin, and I asked him, I was like, hey, when should I get a dialer? And his recommendation was he was like, yeah, when you write, 50,000 in business in 1 month on your own pen, no dialer, then you have like a proven system where you could take somebody from point A to point Z, and it's just a matter of like making it more efficient. So I did that in April. So in May is when I got a dialer. As far as training them up and everything, we actually use sir, I think it's called We Call You Close,
Mhm.
or I don't know, I forget the
Yeah.
exact name, somewhere around that. And they're pretty much like they've worked with, I mean, honestly, they work with a lot of FFL people.
Right.
So they're pretty much they come pre-trained and they already know what to do. You just hook them up with the Ring Central and then they just start dialing the phones for you. So yeah.
Love it. So they dial out of your Ring Central for that set in that sense.
Mhm.
How much do you pay them, give or take?
Yeah, so We Call You Close, I believe it's 400 a week for that.
So like 40 hours a week, give or take, like,
So about
um,
16 a month.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, you're buying your time back. That's like a policy or two. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that, to be
Yeah.
able to have the ability to just show up and close, which I love. Um, so let's dive into like some sales training stuff, right?
hmm
And some work ethic stuff. So obviously, Tom, you can't become the rookie of the year producer in FFL on accident. So, like, what does your schedule look like, or what was your work ethic like in order for you to become the rookie of the year producer at FFL?
Yeah. So I'd say my daily schedule would look like so especially when I was first starting, I was Pacific time actually. So I went from Alaska to Oregon now to Texas. So but the majority of last year I was in Oregon Pacific time. So I'd wake up like 6 a.m. and just start, do my little morning routine, and start dialing the phones as soon as I can, calling East Coast leads, of course. I would work up until like maybe like 10, 11. Take a quick lunch break, and then just start hammering the phones again till 5 o'clock, maybe eat real quick again. Or actually no, because I was Pacific time. Yeah, so I'd probably eat again around like 4,
Oh,
and then I was finishing up around 5, and we might go on a little bit longer depending on like if the guys in the Zoom. Sometimes we're all just like, hey, today wasn't really a good day. We're gonna keep going. You know what I mean? We'll
right.
dial till 6 or even longer. So
I love it. So here's the thing: success leaves clues. And you said, I wake up at 6, I have my morning routine. Dude, we literally just had a call on Thursday with Dave Richard, and we talked about how powerful it is to be able to have a routine that you start off your morning with, right? Because some people, Tom, want to roll out of bed and just start dialing because their bed is right next to their, table. You know what I mean? Because we work from home. And so, what
yeah.
do you do to get yourself in the right frame of mind, whatever it may be, whether it's workout, meditate, pray? Like, what is it? What is it that you do to, in your morning routine?
Yeah. So of course I want to, brush your teeth, shower and everything. I try to do some meditation in the morning because like we speak to, and as I mentioned before, I consider myself more of an introvert. So I'm not the most like charismatic, outgoing person. And we deal with like so many different personalities every single day. So it's important to like, protect your energy or else you're gonna get drained throughout the day. But I try to meditate in the morning, really just get in the right mindset, to be talking to all these people throughout the day, and also just a little bit of prayer, asking for blessings, and you know, quick breakfast and jump into the work schedule.
Right. I love it. So you're dialing in breaks, right? You're going from like 6 to right around noon, taking a quick break for food, noon to
Mhm.
like 4, quick break, and then evening time, right? Like, so you have like three different segments, give or take about 10 hours of dialing. See, like, this is what's cool because, like, once again, this is why I find this business it's so copycat. Like people go, I want to have Tom's result, but I can't dial 10 hours a day. Then I go, you can't have Tom's result.
Yeah.
I only want to dial 6 hours a day. I'm like, then you're not going to write what he writes. I want to have Tom's result, but I won't spend $300 a day on ads. I won't spend 2 grand a week on leads. Cool. Then you won't write what he writes. This bit, like, my whole thing is like when you work with us, and this is like any agency manager here at Family First Life, it's like, here's the blueprint to go Hall of Fame. And if you don't do one of those things, I can't help you. Not because like you might be too good and you might not lead 300 hours a week, a day in leads, but you need to be supplementing that on the phone. You might be trash, bro. Like you suck. And so you need a lot of phone time and leads because you got to go through the reps to make up and catch up. You know what I mean? Like we can see it, but it's so funny when we interview people, recruit people, and they're like, I want to make X, but I will not do these. And I'm like, no, 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 no. You don't have a choice to be conditional in your current circumstances. Does that make sense? Like you can't come to
Yeah.
me and go, I want to make this without doing these things. Then don't work here. How about that? Because like if we continue on this path, we're just gonna lie to each other, right? So I love that. Like you're like, it's blatant, dude. I dial 10 hours a day. I spend $300 a day on leads. I have a dialer. I have appointments that I call to, and this is what I'm writing. I close at about 25%. Because here's the thing, Tom. People go, no, he has to be closing at a 75% clip. That's actually not true. Andrew Taylor taught the entire company how to close 25% of the deals and go Hall of Fame, which is why most of us do it that way. So let's break into some sales training. Like you're on the phone with me, how do you open the call? Let's say your dialer booked it versus you calling themselves. Like how do you open that call with a client?
Yeah, yeah. So my intro is super casual. It's nothing crazy. I'll just be like, "Hey, Steven, this is Thomas. Just giving you a quick call here. Looks like you booked an appointment with me to go over the veterans life insurance programs. How's everything with you today, sir?"
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. And just to confirm we have all the right information for you, and then I'll just verify, date of birth, state, marital status, and then, continue from there.
What is the most common objections that you get on the phone?
Uh, End of the sale, it's got to be, I need to think about it. It's got
Okay.
to be, think about it.
How do you create urgency for them not to think about it, and how do you actually try to push those ones through?
Yeah, so there's different scenarios in which I'll just be getting ammunition throughout the whole call to like overcome that later on. So in the second part of the call, the needs analysis, like let's say for example their birthday, a guy I spoke to this morning in close actually, his birthday's in June, and I'm like, hey, it's good that I kind of throw like a little plants a little seed. I'm like, hey, it's good that we're looking into this now because had we spoken after your birthday in June here, you'd be looking at higher rates. So that's something I plant right now, and then I could also use that later on. But also in the needs analysis part, I'm asking like, was your main goal, to make sure final expenses were taken care of for the family? Do you have any coverage like this in place right now? Like, what would the situation look like if you were to pass away tomorrow? Like do they have that money lying around? Um so towards the end of the call, like if they say, hey, I need to think about it, you want to sort of isolate the objection. So you need to figure out what they need to think about first. So are you thinking about whether you need the coverage, or is it, I
Mm.
pitched 3 packages in the presentation, is it, which package you want to go with? You need to think about if it's whether they need the coverage. You're going to go back to the needs analysis and be like, hey, I mean, well, you mentioned your family doesn't have that money lying around. You never know when the good Lord is going to call you home, and I just want to make sure you're not running around without any coverage. So it would make sense to have this in place. If it's more so the package that they need to think about the price, be like, okay, completely understand. Well, what a lot of veterans like to do if they're debating between a couple different packages is we typically go for the lowest one to start with. At least that way you'll know that you're approved and you have something in place. And the good part about these programs is we could always increase the coverage in the future, if it's comfortable within budget or you have more disposable income later on. Does that sound fair? So that's kind of how I overcome those objections.
So here's a stat I want to ask you because I swear, like new agents think we're lying when we say this.
Hmm.
Let's say you get 10, I need to think about it. throughout a week or whatever it is, or a day, whatever it is, right? 2, 3 days.
Hmm.
How many of those do you actually convert where you close right then and there?
I'd say it's a lower amount, honestly. Maybe like three, four. It's
Thank
gonna be
you. No, 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 because that's the correct answer, right? Because like no, Tom, like Daniel's laughing because he knows what I'm about to go. Like people go like, what would you have said? I'm like, dude, you said the right thing, and they still didn't buy. I would have called the next lead. Like that's my answer. I would have moved on. I'm gonna follow up with this person, but like we have rebuttals to increase the ability to close. We say those things, and sometimes they still don't buy, which is frequent. I'm not mad about it. I move on to the next clown, right? But like some people feel like Tom's working to your producer, sells 500,000, $600,000 a year. He has to have something that I don't have. Dude, y'all heard him go over that rebuttal. Matter of fact, y'all heard his phone script. It's nothing different than almost everybody says on this call. The difference is he's going through 10, 15 presentations today. He's going through more reps. That's it. So, like, you might get 2 to 3. I need to think about it today. He might got 5 or 6 of them already. But because he's got 5 or 6, he's actually closed 2. That's it. Right. Like, for example, Tom, I need to talk to my kids. Right. How often do you get that one?
I get that every now and then, but I'd say it's not too common. It's not too common.
Do you have to talk? What about the talk to the spouse one?
Talk to the spouse, I get that one a lot. Yeah.
Okay. So talk to the spouse, talk to the kids. For me, it's the same type of objection that they need to go talk to somebody else, right? What is your rebuttal on that? And like, how often does it actually work where you place an app through right then and there?
Mm-hmm. I'd say it's probably like the same closing percentage, like
Yeah.
25, 30%.
Yep.
However, come that, I'll sort of plant the seed earlier. If I see that they're married, because we could see their marital status, I'll be like, how would your wife feel about you, getting this coverage in place? And like a veteran the other day, he joked with me, he's like, yeah, she'd be okay with that. She could use it to buy a new boyfriend or buy a new husband or something like that.
Right.
So you can sort of take that and use that later on in the call. That guy actually closed as well. He's like, okay, let's go with the smaller package to start with, and that will have the paperwork to review, and we could always increase it. But honestly, it follows the same framework. So if they need to talk to the wife, do you need to talk to her about whether you need the coverage, or is it more so, you feel like you need it, you're just curious which package she'd want to go with. You know what I mean? So follow that same framework. If it's the price, go with a lower package to start with, and they could always increase that coverage in the future because they're going to receive the paperwork, within 7 to 10 business days or so, depending on the carrier. And they'll be able to review that in those first 30 days. You could always adjust that coverage. So it is a bit of a softer close. And while I'm doing the app as well, I'll still ask, like, because this is immediate coverage, most veterans do want it to go into effect immediately. Would you want this to go into effect immediately? And even though I soft close them saying like, hey, you'll have that paperwork review before the policy goes into effect, a lot of veterans will still choose like, yeah, we could just have it go into effect, as soon as possible.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
So here's where here's the logistics aspect of what I want to go through. So let's say you're trying to close me, I pick an option, and then you're trying to get me to buy right now, and I'm like, no, I got to talk to my wife, I got to talk to my kids, whatever it is, right? Like I'm hard on that. How do you set up a follow-up? And then when you do actually call for that follow-up, what does that sound like?
yeah. So after I've isolated the objection, I'll be like, okay, um, is there any if they still say they need to think about it, I'd be like, okay, is there any questions that may have left unanswered for you in the meantime? They'd be like, no, I just wanna speak to her about, X, Y, and Z. I'm like, okay. When may be a good time for us to reconnect, maybe later today or later this week after you've had a chance to speak with her? And then I'll have them lock in a date there.
Okay. And so like when you lock in that date, right? How do you call back and like bring up the options again? Like how does that call sound like?
Yeah. So I'm just calling you right away. I'll be like, hey, Mike, this is Thomas, the corrections consultant, just giving you a call for our scheduled appointment. How's everything with you today? They'll say,
Good.
good, good. And I'll be like, okay, just bear with me for a second as I pull up your file here. And I have this little like remarkable where I take all the notes. It's basically like a digital notebook. And I'll be like, okay, so I recall when we previously spoke, We were looking at a couple different packages of coverage for you to, and I'll go back to the why and the purpose to make sure the final expenses are taken care of, so your wife wouldn't have to pay for it out of pocket, or to make sure after God forbid you pass, there's enough money for your wife to maintain her quality of life. And you wanted to speak with her about it. Is she currently with you? Or I'll ask, if I don't hear them in the background or anything, I'll be like, have you had a chance to speak to her yet? And they'd be like, yeah, and they'll sort of let me know where they're at with anything, with everything. And then it's just a matter of, if they're okay with it, you proceed the application. If not, you're sort of overcoming an objection again or any questions that she may have.
Got it. How much business do you close on that second call?
Uh, I will say you get more no-shows on that. So it's probably a lower percentage, maybe even like 2 to 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, here's why I say this. If you don't close them on the initial call, okay, and you schedule a follow-up, like Andrew Taylor taught me this early on, right? He was like, if you don't close it right in the home, you're never getting it ever, right? And I believe that. Telesales is a different animal because they can just hang up on you whenever they choose instead of like them kicking me out of the house, right? So like they're like, I got to think about it. I'll call you back. I'll call you back. I'll call you back, whatever it is. And you like actually set up a follow-up call. Dude, the amount of people that don't show up to that call is through the roof because it's a
Yeah.
polite way for them to say F off.
Yep.
You actually understand what we do. Like the amount of people that go, hey, Tom, like, I got like a few people that like are in the pipeline, like they're ready to buy. I'm like, dude, good luck getting them on the phone. Right. And so, like, and if they get on the phone with you, most of the time, like you said, some of them are like, you know what, we talked about it, and the answer is no, right? Or like that's why I'm curious to see how much do you actually close on that follow-up call? Like you'll probably close a few here and there, which helps your
Mhm.
numbers, obviously, right? But this is why we say we got to press when we have a chance. Like Paul McLean taught me this early on. He said, if you knew your client's going to die tomorrow, like if you knew for a fact that they would die tomorrow, how hard would you close them today? Right. And for me, like I will let people get off the hook very easily. And then so what I've realized was like in my mind, like new agents have this like, well, if I'm nice to them, they might answer the call. Dude, they're not answering. So you might as well press as hard as you can right there, because they're probably not going to answer anyways. Fair, Tom? Do you think that's true?
Yeah. Yeah. Follow-up calls, like that's the majority of no-shows is follow-up calls. They just don't answer. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
It's a polite way for them to say, get out of my house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like that's why we got to close there. It's why people go like, well, what you I'm like, dude, I'm on to the next call because like for me, I marked that as a I'm not getting that. Like, would I possibly get 2 or 3 out of 10? Probably, maybe. But like I'm not banking on all of them to go through. You know what I mean? So I love that. Anything you do on the sales side that you think you do differently compared to most people, to allow you to close more business or to be able to, sell as high as a clip as you do?
On the sales side, honestly, I don't think I do anything special. I think it's all pretty much like if you hop into our Zoom chat and ask like who's the most scripted guy here, they're probably all gonna say me because I sound like they call me AI Tom sometimes because I sound like a robot on the phone, like very scripted. But yeah, I just follow like a proven process. It's kind of weird, but I look at sales as like almost binary to where it's like they say one, I say zero. They say zero, I say one. I'm just following a proven process and taking them to the end of the sale through that. They give certain objections, like all objections are pretty much everybody has pretty much the same objections. So you just follow the same process for overcoming that, and then it just becomes a numbers game.
It's funny you say that, right? Because Trey Honeycutt always would say it's not like our clients get together on trading calls and weekly meetings to find new ways to give us new objections, right?
Yeah.
Um, which is true. So, like, there's only a handful of objections you can possibly ever see on the phone, right? And it's preset appointments. I don't remember filling it out. I already got it taken care of. I don't remember filling it out, whatever. Or, I'm not
Mm.
interested no more, right? Those are the three. Post sale, like literally during the options, I'm not giving you social. I'm not giving you banking. I got to think about it. right? Like those are the only three right there, too, basically, besides talking to my kids and wife. It's all the same, right? How important is it for a brand new agent to have rehearsed and know those rebuttals so comfortably so that when it gets to them, they can respond to them? Like if you're training new agents.
Yeah, I say it's probably one of the most important things that you could do because like if you get that objection and like if you're in the home, it's one thing, but being on the phone, it's very different because you have less margin for error. You have to seem like very on top of it, like you know what you're doing. But if you're in the home and it's like if you don't know how to do something, you could call somebody or because they see you, there's a lot more trust and rapport and like you could mess up basically. On the phone, you mess up, you're just one click away, one tap away from never speaking to that person again. So you want to make sure you're really sharp and you're on top of it. And you want to rehearse it so that it sounds, very calm and natural for you. Because if you're, sounding frantic on the phone, then it's gonna trigger the client. So you got to be very, very careful with those parts because you could be a couple words away or, you know, a slight tonality difference away from completely losing the sale.
Right. If y'all have any questions, man, feel free to drop them in the chat. Tom, one of the questions that came in is how many sales do you make in a week?
Yeah. Honestly, all of last year, my goal was just like one sale a day, one sale a day. And that's what I did the majority of last year. I was honestly surprised because I was like, that's my main goal. And I was seeing other people in our Zoom chat doing like two, three, four, five sales a day. But for the majority last year, just one sale a day. Occasionally get two sales or good days, five, six sales, but one sale a day. And that's still pretty much what I'm rocking on one or two, more so on the two side now this year.
Do you have a premium goal that you're trying to hit for the week?
20K,
20K
20K.
for the week.
hmm
How many appointments do you need to hit 20K a week?
Um,
Or
Times when I do hit
presentation?
that, I have more than 10 in a day for sure. Like I've opened up my calendar to double bookings now, so every 30 minutes I want to have like two appointments is what I'm shooting for this year.
So every 30 minutes you have two appointments. Wow. Okay. So
That's what I shoot for. That's what I shoot for. Yeah.
right. So you have a total of 10 appointments pre-booked for you a day, and you're also one call closing yourself while you're doing at it, right?
Yeah.
That's clever. What are you writing on average right now, monthly?
On average monthly now, it's been a little bit of a rough start to the year this year so far, with convention traveling and everything, but monthly I'm doing like around 40, 50 right now.
Okay. What did you write last year, total premium? And did you start from January?
Yeah, last year total premium around 470, right
Okay.
around there.
And you started in Jan?
Yeah, closed my first policy in January.
Cool. Okay. So I love that. Monica asked, what is your schedule?
What is my schedule? So now here in Texas, so I'll probably morning routine from yeah, 8 to 9. And then 9, I'll start dialing. I'll dial from like 9 to noon. Then I'll take a quick lunch break. Then I'll dial from, let's say I have like an hour lunch break, dial from like 1 to 5. Then I'll take another quick break. And then I dial from like 5 to 7.
Got it. Daniel asked, since you're on Central Time, what time zones are you dialing? And is your dialer dialing the same hours as you or different hours?
Yeah. So my dialer will start dialing, they start dialing from I believe 8 to 1 o'clock. Then they take a 4 hour break. No, I'd have to recheck that. But they're not working the same hours as me. They basically start at 8 o'clock in the morning, dial for 4 hours. So yeah, they dial till noon, and then they pick up again at 4 and work till 8,
Yep.
8 p.m. Yeah.
Pretty common with everybody.
They're not working the same exact hours as me. So
Are they
they dial a little bit before and a little bit after. As far as what time zones we're calling and everything. So I have a rule where like I'll never call somebody in their time zone past 7 o'clock unless it's like an appointment. And I try not to dial people before. before 8:30 their time.
Interesting. Um, so what leads are your dialers calling? Are they calling your fresh stuff, or are they calling your 2, 3, 4, 5 day old stuff? Like what stuff are they actually calling for you?
Yeah, they'll dial both. So they'll hammer the fresh stuff first, of course. And if they can't reach that, they'll go to like the older leads and everything. But
How long did
prioritize.
it take before you had them start dialing your new stuff?
How long did it take?
Hmm.
Um, well, when they first started, they were dialing like the fresh stuff primarily because they were just like catching up and everything. But over time, they've sort of like went further and further back. But I'd say they've always sort of dialed like age stuff too, though.
Right. Because my whole thing is like when you start a dialer off, you don't know how good or bad they are. And most of the time, dialers suck compared to you. That's a fact, right? So I'm always like, give them your older stuff to call, so they can basically get the reps on that and they don't botch your new stuff. And then what happens is as they get better and you trust them, then you basically transition into that. So, um, next question is the worst answer is a no answer or a maybe. How often do you follow up with clients? So like let's say, you got all the way through the app, right at banking, clients like I'm not giving you banking, right? Call me back, whatever it is. How frequent do you follow up with that client to try to get banking so you can get the app through?
Yeah, so I primarily do the majority of my follow-ups on Saturday, but I'll typically reconnect with them in 2 weeks and then um, reconnect with them like at least like once a month. I kind of have it in my I'll show you guys this as well. This little device called Remarkable. It's like a digital notebook, and let me go to my follow-up tab here. So yeah, this is basically like a file of like every lead that I have some sort of objection on. So I could open up this file, and then after I'll call them, follow up with them, and after I call them, well actually I typically start from like the bottom because that's the oldest stuff. So after I call them, it'll go up to the top here, and then I'll go back to the bottom, and then just continuously cycle through. So um, that's pretty much what I do. And I do that on Saturdays typically. I'm doing the follow-ups, but I'm typically touching people at least once or twice a month.
Freddie,
Is
did
this
you
for,
unmute, bro? I don't know if Freddie has a question. No, he doesn't. All right. I thought he was about to say something. I was like, he's about to
no,
jump
no, my
in.
bad, my bad. Good stuff, Tom.
You're good, Freddie. Um, Arnie asked, why do you call vet leads instead of like traditional FE leads? Why did you choose vets?
So I initially went into vets just because I saw like how much amazing results other people were getting with it. But I think overall, because of the what they get paid from the VA, from disability and everything, they have more disposable income. So average policy sizes would likely be a little bit larger, and a retention would probably be a little bit better, in my opinion. In my opinion.
Yeah. Who handles your admin work? Your dialer, or are you calling all the carriers and existing clientele yourself?
So I have a secretary with the same company. So an appointment setter and a secretary.
Nice. When did you pick up that second staff to help you with all that stuff?
Yeah, that was in August because my book of business got to the point where it's like I'd have like something going on like
Hmm.
almost every day. So I was like, okay, this is starting to take from like my money making time, like calling, dialing time, presentation time. So that's when I picked her up. So about 8 months in.
What do you kind of have her doing for you?
Yeah, so all of the small stuff as far as like if a client reaches out, whether it be via the CRM, just texting me, I need to change, recurring date. I need to change the bank account. Also just follow-ups in general as far as like if there's a missed payment or just anything like that. Any carrier requirements like Americo policy delivery receipt, she'll follow up with the client on that, give them a heads up about it, things like that.
I love it. Dude, it's crazy because I always tell people your admin, secretary, whatever you want to call them, their sole job is not to make you any money. Their sole job is to make sure that you don't lose any. So, like for example, you have like three policies that are in lapse pending, and she calls them and saves it because of something stupid, whether it's another agent lied to them about their current policy or they missed a payment because of a draft date or whatever it is. and your assistant saves you that chargeback, like they didn't make you any money, but they saved you from going 3 grand in the hole with America. You know what I mean? Like your assistant is supposed to save you from making money. But the other part of it too is like I always tell people like you hire an assistant and then you find work for them to do. That's how you get productive. Like you don't have a stack of stuff to do for them and then hire that person. You find things for them to do. And trust me, there's a crap ton of stuff that we can delegate to those people. And
Mhm.
here's a good sign for you to know when it's time. Okay. Let's say you have a full appointment calendar and like it's 8 o'clock at night and you had an 8 o'clock in the morning and you're like, damn, I forgot what happened on that 8 o'clock appointment. Like I forgot the client's name, who the spouse was, what their names of their dogs were, what policy did I put them in? Because you had that much activity in your day. That's a great sign to hire out because you can't possibly remember everything. You know what I mean? Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah. Aaron asked, as a brand new agent, what was the most important thing you took away from someone else that changed your way you do your business?
Most important thing I took away. Um, I'd say starting out, because I was watching just like so many different things. And I think that's probably what a lot of people do when first starting out. Like they go on FFL and they watch like all these different videos of people doing things different ways. Is just to try and like stick with one thing for long enough to like to master it. Cause I was trying to work like different lead types at the start. So just really just focusing, honestly, just focus and get more reps in. The more reps you get in, the more you'll learn, run into the common objections, you'll learn how to do all the apps, and then it'll just become better over time. Because if you're trying to do, three different lead types or a ton of different things at once, you're going to be mediocre at all of them.
Dude, I was just gonna say this. Like, like a lot of people overtrain. And here's what I mean. Like every team has like what they run, and every team like niches normally in a few things, right? But when you hop on YouTube and you go on to like the TNLs and all that stuff and you overwatch, what happens is you second guess everything you're doing. You're like, no wonder
Exactly.
I'm not making it because I'm running vet FE, but this guy's saying I got to go run IULs. And then the other guy goes, the reason why I'm not making it is because I'm running IULs while these guys are crushing it with vet FEs and a combination of mortgage. And the mortgage guys are like, well, why am I running mortgage? Because data is limited. I got to be, dude, there is always an angle for something. There is. And so this is what I connected to. Okay. It's like the guy that wants to lose weight and he goes to the gym and he goes to the gym for 2 weeks, but he half-asses it, but he goes to the gym to hang out, right? Even though he might be working a little bit, he ain't working that hard, right? And then he looks at the scale and the scale shows nothing because you don't lose any weight the first week or two you go to the gym. So he goes, the gym's a scam. I got to go do P90X. So they go do P90X and they do that for 2 weeks and they don't see a result. And they go, dude, P90X doesn't work. I got to go do Insanity. And then they go do Insanity for 2 weeks and that shit don't work. And then what happens is they go, Insanity's a scam. I got to go do CrossFit. Dude, it's not the workout. It's you.
Yep.
Daniel said Herbalife. It's not the workout. It's you. You haven't stuck through something long enough to know everything about that sale inside and out. You know what I mean? Like if I were to ask you questions about veterans, I'm pretty sure you would be able to give me answers that a lot of rookie producers don't have because they dabble in everything. Instead of being an expert at FE, an expert in IULs, an expert in mortgage, an expert in vet FE, whatever it may be, right? Like that's the problem. Is like we don't stick to what we do and we just go, well, that person's getting a decent result. I got to go see what they're doing. Well, you're not going to get a good result because there's a learning curve in everything you do. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Daniel asked a question. What's the best advice for you as to a rookie agent? If you were to hire yourself right now, how would you teach that person how to write more than you? Like, what's your best advice for them?
Um, for a brand new agent, I would just say get more reps in. Honestly, just get more reps in. And that's part of why like I quit my job at the beginning of the years because I was like, man, I can't like half do this. Like I gotta get more reps in if I'm gonna learn how to, make full-time income doing this. So that also entails investing in yourself. I would have invested in myself a lot sooner,
Right.
just so I have enough leads to get more reps in. I feel like over dialing is a thing.
Hmm.
Like you're
Dude,
like
you
for me,
call the same
honestly,
person, you recognize the name, something's wrong.
yeah, you might piss somebody off that way. But yeah, just getting more reps in sooner because there's people that have started after me, same system, and they're just like crushing what I did. Like rookie of the year this year is gonna be crazy. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Um, Here's my last question before we wrap up. Um, my wife asked the question, so I have to let her go. What stopped you from not quitting your first 30 days?
honestly, the Zoom. Because
Mm,
like
say
if
that
you're
again.
surrounded by people that are crushing it in the Zoom and it's like this guy has 5,000 AP and then you do the math on like what that works out to, I'm like, man, this guy's making that much money on that. That's more than I'm gonna make this whole week. And he made it in a day, working an hourly job. Like once you get a taste of commission sales, it's like, dang, like that's honestly what motivated me to keep going. Even though I wasn't getting any sales, I was like, man, it just takes one day like that and like everything changes. You know what I mean? So yeah, just seeing that daily.
The crazy part is like those one days happen once in a blue moon, but it's a good reminder when you're having bad days that those days happen too. You know what I mean? Like they're not supposed to happen every day because then we lose what it actually is. But like you're
Yeah,
gonna have a banger once in a while where you do 5, 6, 10 grand in premium in a day. And you're gonna be like, damn, I'm really good at this. And you're also gonna have days where you don't close anything. You go 0 for everything, right? Which is perfectly fine.
yeah,
But when you go 0 for everything, you got to remember that the good days are coming too. You know what I mean? Like I remember in the field, bro, like this is like the games that we would play with ourselves. And like if people understood how to take this and translate this into telesales, I think it'd help them. Like Tom, I had 10K weekends almost 90% of the weekends I ran, right? But there's weekends that I didn't. Not always, but there was weekends that I didn't. I was so quick to get back into the field Tuesday, Wednesday, because I was like, the field owes me. The field
mhm,
owes me. I have to. And then what happened was like when I got a good weekend, I was like, bro, I got to stay on top of it because the zeros are coming. You know, what I
yeah,
mean? Like you're like the numbers are going to average out. I just closed 9 out of 10 people. Damn, that basically means I'm going to go 0 for 10 next week to balance it out. Like I got to get through those 10
yeah,
as quick as I can to get right back on the track. Like that is the game I would play with myself. So I didn't have to fall into the emotional roller coaster of what we did. You know what I mean? So, Tom, I appreciate you, man. This was great, and I appreciate you for taking time out your day to be able to, share with us, dude. It's do you believe honestly, if we hooked you up to a lie detector test, that anybody can actually go Hall of Fame if they worked and bought the leads?
absolutely. Anybody can. You don't have to be like an extrovert or anything. Like I said, I'm an introvert, not the most outgoing person. And I was surprised when I won Rookie of the Year. I'm like, I'm not, that sales guy personality. So, like anybody could do it. As long as they're coachable, willing to put in the work, willing to invest in themselves, it's possible for anybody.
I love it, man. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. If there's anything I can do to help you, man, let me know. Guys, this is a great call. When you get a chance, make sure you drop him a follow and tell him thank you. This upcoming Wednesday, we have Rachel Stahl from Royal Neighbors talking about a single premium whole life. Trust me when I say this is a product you might want to actually contract and add into your arsenal because there's a lot of your clients I go, why would I buy a final expense policy? I already have 10 grand in the bank. This is for that client. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, you definitely want to be on. So, Tom, thank you. Appreciate you guys. Have a great week. And as always, we'll see you at the top. Be
Thank
safe.
you.